I think sometimes my message can be misconstrued, which in a lot of cases, the consequences could be dire. So I think it's important that the message comes across appropriately. So I wanted to reiterate some points that I've made, and I wanted to also talk about the scene in general as it stands today. So in my last video, that it's harder to be goth now. It is. But what many people took that as is the goth scene is dead now. And that is far from the truth. In fact, if I were to compare what the scene was 6 years ago when I started my channel versus today, it's night and day. To say resurgence would be a massive understatement and be doing the scene a grave disservice. The advent of things like Bandcamp has encouraged people with an interest in music or has been doing music before to really get into it and produce it, and then go to places like Bandcamp, which has been an incredible resource with new music. I mean, the amount of music that's being released every day, I can't even keep up. I'm trying to. This is an amazing problem to have, to not be able to keep up with the amount of music produced. And I would say a good 99% of what I'm hearing, I fucking love it. So this is good news. The fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic, as if you didn't know, but we're seeing record numbers of club events and attendance, masked, vaccinated, but they're still attending more now than ever before. And there's renewed interest. The old schoolers, they're coming back out. New people, they're more interested in getting involved. So when I say it's hard to be goth now, that has largely to do, well, entirely to do with saturation. So when I was younger in the 90s, getting involved in goth, being interested in it. Now, a lot of people will look at those who became interested because of fashion and say, oh, you became interested because of the fashion. It's a music-based subculture and you're a poser. No. It doesn't matter which path you took to get into the door, so long as you're inside and it matters where you end up. That's it. I got involved by way of fashion because, like a lot of us, we saw goths and we were intrigued by them. Something about them resonated with us, and what they were wearing, just their general aura, and we became so intrigued. And I just remember seeing them and saying, I want that. I want to be part of that. That feels like home. That feels like me. So naturally, discovering this, what do? You want to look into it. You want to research. In the 90s, when you research, you didn't have to worry about not landing in the right place, because if something is labeled goth or gothic, it was. Nowadays, if something is labeled goth or gothic, that means absolutely nothing. Goth, it's underground. Even though it's made such a massive resurgence, it's an obscure subculture. No, there's no competition between us and the mainstream. They're going to bury us, and they are. When it comes to things like articles showing Megan Fox and Kourtney Kardashian are like the new it goth girls of the moment. What? The internet has resulted in the distribution of vital information regarding the goth scene. It's helped us find each other. It's helped us find the music. It's helped us find the art of DIY and thrifting, people sharing those tips. It helped us find the events, learn the history, and this information to a baby bat is vital. How can a baby bat find it? They don't know what it is they're looking for in the first place, and they have to wade through Machine Gun Kelly. So the irony in all this is that the very people that are responsible for this mass saturation and really causing the mainstream to bury goth, genuine goth, and make it so difficult to find are the same people that made fun of us back in the day for being goth or looking different. Now they want to copy the aesthetic. They want to replace our music with their music, which is wildly unrelated because they just don't like goth music. And they actually verbally attack actual goths who try to step up and say, hey, hold on a minute. And we get branded old heads, gatekeepers, elitists. Get over yourself. Things evolve. This is not evolution. This is an attempt for people to kind of override something that they think is the look du jour and then take it over. But just like anything else, it's a trend, and by the time they're done with it, where does that leave us? That's where we really need to step in and try to mitigate that kind of saturation so that the younger generation can find us. Because like I said, Things are absolutely booming right now. The goth scene is incredible. There are so many resources out there where you can find your people, where you can find your music. You just have to know where to look. Because when a baby bat comes along, just like we did back in the day, and they're like, wow, this whole thing looks interesting. It feels like me. I must find more information. I need to know what this is. And they look for it. They're not going to find the straight line that we did. See, there were no side quests that we had to go on to find things, because if it was labeled goth, that's what it was. But now what they're having to do is they're forced to face the arduous task of differentiating between what is goth and what is not. But the problem is they're doing that without knowing what it actually is. That's gotta be tough. I also think it's really important that you know your YouTuber. For example, if you're watching me or you're watching other people, and some people, even if they hashtag goth, sometimes they're entertaining. But you can't really take it beyond that, because if they offer you any insider information, it's going to be incorrect if they're not an actual goth. And you really need to know what their intentions are in doing so. Like if they're trying to build an empire and they're trying to create this sort of persona that's not true to who they are, misrepresenting the goth scene, acting a fool, but meanwhile a few years back they admitted that they hate goth, probably not the best influence if you're just starting out. The resources that you can find here, you have people like Cadaver Kelly and Skullgirdle. They're amazing wealths of information with music. They're constantly doing reviews. So what I like about Cadaver Kelly is she has a certain way about her, the way she explains music, and this is something that I've often had trouble doing. She can actually explain notes and how goth music works. I can't do that. I can just listen to it and tell you if it's goth or is it not, but I'm unable to actually go into the subtle nuances that make goth what it is on a technical level. Jaya Resurrected, she's another one who does a lot of music reviews, but she does a lot of other things. She does literary reviews. If you're into absinthe, she's very much into absinthe, and she taught me that no, it does not make you hallucinate. When it comes to the more cerebral, the more academic side of goth, you might want to have a look at places like Cemetery Confessions, because they're going to offer you a different aspect of things to more explain it on a technical level. But I will warn you, it is highly verbose, and I sometimes need a fucking thesaurus when I watch it. But, you know, it checks off the list when you want to learn new words to add to the vocab, right? Getting involved in your local goth scene might be a little bit difficult if you're not of age. So ATAC has posted videos about the art of the house party. I know I have as well. And people have responded, oh my God, that looks amazing. I wish I was a teenager in the 90s so I can do that too. No! That's not the point. It's to show you that you can do it now. Yes, we did it in the 90s, and we're showing you how we did it so you can do it again. What today is stopping you? What sort of pitfalls and hurdles exist in the world as it is today that stops you from having a house party like we did? There was no special sort of aura. There was no time and place and atmosphere. There was nothing different. The only thing different now is you have more at your disposal. You have more than we did. So you probably have a better chance at getting more people to come to your house party. And then you have the tools to record that event and share it with other people. We, on the other hand, we just told people. You have far more resources where you can do that. Don't look at things that we show you about things that happened in the 90s and say, wow, I wish I was there. Too bad we can't do those things now. What's stopping you? The reason we're showing you is not to show you what was. It's to show you what can be. It's to show you what we can do. You can do this today. One of the best times in my life is when I was driving around with my friends at night in the summertime in some junky old car because it was my friend's first automobile. You get the burner car because you know you're going to mess it up. And it was usually massive because in the 90s, you got a car from the 80s and those things were like boats. So we'd all be piled into this car with velour seats, no smartphones to distract us, blasting the music, windows down, and just enjoying the moment. And it was things like that that meant the most to us. Are there still roads? Are there still cars? Do you still have a means to play music in your car? Yes. So why can't you do that today? There are so many DJs from all around the world that host live DJ events that you can attend, and there's also like a live stream chat where you can converse with other people. And that is an amazing thing to do as well, because that's another great way to get your feet wet. It's a great way to learn about music. It's a great way to integrate with other goths, and you can even communicate with the DJ, and you can ask questions. So these are all things that we didn't have back in the day, but would serve you so well. And in the comments, if you have any DJs that I haven't mentioned, by all means, drop them in. What I think is important is that we need to offer up resources, true resources. So I'm going to put some resources in the description of places to go. For example, Bandcamp. Bandcamp won't steer you wrong. You find one band that you like, it's going to recommend like 100 that you will as well, that are related to that band. And it is just a treasure trove of brilliant, brilliant music, and it will really help you along the way. Facebook, I know a lot of the younger generation is not into Facebook, but guess what? There are a lot of groups and a lot of actual club nights that exist there where you can find people in your area that are like you. But here are some red flags to look for. In my experience, I have come to find that the people who are so adamantly against what actual goth is and trying to kind of push it out and insert their own definition, which is basically the definition of whatever the mainstream has deemed it to be, they use the word old head a lot. They use old head to basically describe actual goths that are trying to correct them. Also look out for people who are really quick to sling around the word gatekeeper. Any goth or an actual goth, they're not going to use that word, because if anybody kind of tries to steer you in the right direction, then they're kind of happy to have that information, because if it's something that you genuinely love, you know that they're not trying to keep you out of it. In addition to that, if somebody is acting like an asshole and trying to pull rank, a real goth is not going to call them a gatekeeper. They're not going to call them elitists. What they're going to do is call them an asshole, because that's what they are. Take stock of any kind of music recommendations that people make you, because if they're making you musical recommendations based on goth, Google them and try to look and see what genre they fall into. Really make sure. If it falls under metal, if it falls under, say, symphonic metal, regular metal, it falls under rap, nope, not goth. Avoid. If anyone happens to say that goth, in any certain terms, is not a music-based subculture, not goth. If somebody happens to say goth is a mindset, not goth. If anyone says goth is what you make it, no. That could be anything. These are new potatoes. Can I make these goth? And as with anything, just use your better judgment. If people are saying those things, then it probably means that they're a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, which happens quite a lot. And what I don't understand is, why is it so hard for people to want to listen to goth music? I don't understand that. Goth is a music-based subculture. They know it, we know it. What is causing that block that is stopping them from bothering to listen to the music? And that's because they genuinely don't care about it. They don't care about the scene, they don't care about the subculture. What they care about is they're attached to the label. They like the look, they love the aesthetic, and they want to be like Megan Fox. They want to be like Machine Gun Kelly. They want to be like Travis Barker and something Kardashian #1. I don't know who it is, but they want to be like these people. They like the whole concept of turning it into Transylvania 90210, and that's not what it is. It is not a popularity contest. It's not a fashion show, even though we love the fashion. We love the fashion, and we understand why other people love the fashion as well. But for some reason, loving the fashion for them is not enough. They need to attach the term goth to it. And that obsession is what leads to all of this confusion. Like I said, the goth subculture is booming right now. Even though we're in the middle of a pandemic, there are clubs going, there are still concerts, there are a lot of bands being released every single day. And they're out there waiting for you, and they're so easy to find, and it's so easy to get them instantaneously. So I'm going to put some links in the description. I'm also probably going to pin a comment. It seems like you find things better when I actually do a pinned comment as opposed to in the description. I'll just do both. But I want to help you with resources to find actual goth, because sometimes if you don't know what it is that you're looking for, it can be really hard to find goth in general. Established goths, people who've been there for a while, people who've kind of gone through their trial and error, and you have your tried and trues, please in the description leave any resources that you can find that you think that would help people along. It could be clothing stores, it could be music websites, bands you like, anything. So these are going to be really useful things to help people, and hopefully it will help mitigate and cut through all of that saturation out there and help baby bats find actual goth. It'll also help us find some new things too, because I'm sure you have some info that I don't, and I probably have some that you don't, and I'm sure someone else in the comments is going to have some crap, and you guys are going to have like a information fest, and it's going to be fantastic. I gotta put these potatoes away.